Hi, Lucy. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining me again this week. I found the chat that we had last week fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And we during that time, we touched on the kind of profit and planet side of sustainability. So we looked at how businesses can benefit financially from putting in place sustainable credentials, and then also the benefits that derives as far as the planet is concerned, and those environmental actions that they can take. But what we didn't touch on was the third P, which is people. So that's what I'm keen to find out more about today. So explain what that means.
Well, the people side of a business, of course, is extremely important. The business and the people, they need each other. They can't survive without each other. So that would cover your employees, your staff across the board, absolutely everything. But it also includes your supply chains. It also includes your local community. Where are you situated? Okay. So you have to take that into consideration, or them into consideration. It's about providing support and thoughtfulness for the livelihoods of your local community, which includes what I've already just said. So supporting their living standards, if that can come into it. It's about creating positive local benefits.
And I suppose community has become something that we've all become much more aware of, haven't we, in the last few months, because we've all become much more connected and part of our community. And so perhaps that's something that people have become more aware of, and would be interested to know, as a hospitality business, as any business, what are the specific things that you can look at doing from a sustainable perspective within a community?
Well, one of the important things that a business would have to do to actually call themselves using sustainable practices is looking to involve themselves in a local community initiative. And you can pick something, for instance, one of the first things to do to start that ball rolling is to talk to all your staff, get them together, and especially the ones that live locally, and try and get them to write down a little exercise on how they think they could improve their neighbourhood. And you'll be surprised, a lot of them will come up with some quite interesting ideas. It might be food, it might be helping education, it might be a bunch of young children want to learn to grow carrots, or all sorts of things that people will come up with. And then you can pick and choose between those, and then the person that's come up with it can get involved, and you can create a little team. You can go into the communities, and then you can spread out from there and decide how you're actually going to make this initiative come to life. And that will bring goodwill from the employees and from the local community. And you can do the different one every year. So it's not always one thing, or you can carry on doing that one, and you can start another one the following year or the year after that, depending on, it's all run by you. So it builds huge goodwill though in the local community.
Yeah, and that sounds like great benefit from the point of view of that team building side of things, which is obviously very important. And I guess something that businesses are going to be looking at, particularly right now, with a lot of people having worked from home, and kind of looking at ways in which they can get that team spirit and team bond re-engaged. And I guess if you're visible within your local community, that in itself not just supports the community, but also has business benefits too.
Yes, I think it's very important. I think you'll be very well thought of. The other thing that I was going to mention was to give you an example, some of your venues that might have accommodation attached to them, you might want to create an activity. This is another way you can do it. You can again go into the local community. I thought of bike rides. So you can either offer them for hire, or you need a couple of bicycles, which could be an investment, or you could rent some. Pass that on to the customer, or depending on how much it was, you could absorb that, and then you would work out, again, around your local community, what is there interesting to do that's an immersive experience, because this is far more about what people are traveling for, not necessarily, but if they're overstaying from a wedding, it's like, well, what can we do tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, why don't we go and visit the local brewery? Well, how are we going to get there? Well, on a sustainable, best way to go is by your self-power. So, oh, well, we can provide you with the bikes. We can put the whole package together for you. So things like that. I mean, it might be pottery, it might be bird watching. You know, you can come up with all sorts of ideas. But again, talk to the local staff, have a look, see what's around you. Hopefully you have a brewery near you.
we have the fabulous Hillside Brewery actually on the Secret Spaces website. Yes, there are, and it is a venue in itself. But that's businesses that are not just benefiting their local community, but they're benefiting other businesses within their local community by suggesting that their guests go and try the local brewery, or that, you know, if there's a brewery, or go to a museum or whatever. I mean, obviously we have to be cautious right now that not everything is possible because some things remain closed. But what we're talking about now is not just for now, it's for the future, and thinking about ideas for the future. And I guess that links back to the whole sustainability piece, isn't it? It's not just about now, it's about sustainability for now and into the future.
Well, and the one major thing is future resilience. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and we've been living now for the last, since the last war, which was something major, what's that, 50 years. This is like a lot of people have described COVID as being a bit like a war, because it's across the globe. So we need to think about the future a little bit more than we've ever had to before. A lot of people have forgotten about, I mean, you know, my age group, we missed the war. Our parents were just about in it, so it's a long time ago. And future resilience is something that is falling off a lot of people's lips. But at the other side of the social side is also heritage and culture, which brings back into what we were saying earlier about breweries, pottery, and, you know, cheese making, food making experiences. And sometimes you can actually get involved and do these things as well. But the other thing we were talking about was the entrepreneurs and local traders. So that's just sort of like a bit more of an umbrella term for that. But it's the sort of thing that, as you say, the business would be thanked hugely, and you can do so it's cross collaborating, and they can cross collaborate on their websites and any kind of external communications and marketing that they do. So there's benefits all round.
And so taking the other aspect and looking at the staff, and what that means for a business, kind of how do you approach that within a business, and you've got your team, what sustainably should you be looking at doing?
Well, once you've decided which compliance sort of standards that you feel that would work for your business, well, I mean, any of them would, it's important to initiate some sort of staff training so that everybody is on board and everybody understands what you're trying to achieve and how you want to achieve it. That's hugely important. And in the end, it creates much stronger staff engagement with what you're trying to do, but also with your guests. And that's the other side of the social side, is, which we haven't mentioned yet, is anyone that's, even if it's just coming for an event for the day, they will, if you externally communicate it correctly, you get good public awareness, not just about what you're doing, but you're also helping everybody else that breathes air work towards mitigating climate change, because all these efforts come together to do that, and reducing emissions. The less people travel to buy things, do activities, then the better it is for everybody, which is what we've seen with us all not traveling as much over the last 4 months, and not quite sure when we'll be flying anywhere now. It does cut down on our carbon emissions, which is hugely important. But going back to staff, it's about engaging with them so they understand why they're doing it. So they think, oh, well, I didn't know that. Then they go home and they speak to their mum and dad, or they have a partner, or they have kids. Who knows? You know, we're employing all sorts of age groups. And then they know. So you're now spreading the word, which creates more positive change. It's all about positive change and having positive increase positive impacts, not negative. I was at a golf club yesterday and the woman was just throwing the cans in the rubbish and I was horrified. And I showed my sustainability self. I was probably a little bit abrupt, but are you going to recycle those? And she said, and she just looked at me as if I was from another planet. And I was like, I've just said the most obvious thing in the world. I mean, I live in an area where we recycle cans. It's not difficult. Well, we recycle bottles and great. Cans? So she didn't know. She had no concept of really where I was coming from. So it's hugely important. And, you know, in this day and age, I was really quite surprised. But hey, it's the world we live in.
And yes, I'm quite surprised that given, for me, that sustainability and recycling, I mean, that's almost like the obvious and easiest thing that anybody can do, I think, but clearly we do have a way to go to educate wider. So what you were saying about explaining to your team, your staff, what is your why for looking at sustainability? And I know Crumpleberry, which is one of the venues that's behind me. Oh, I nearly got that right. There you go. They've been really doing a lot of work during lockdown, looking at their sustainability credentials and implementing a lot of new activities. But what's key for them is developing an environmental policy that all their staff will be aware of. It will be part of job roles. All their staff will have training. So everything that you've just spoken about, they're looking at and they will be implementing. So that's fantastic. Lucy, this continues to be a fascinating subject, and so, you know, is there one sort of rounding thought that you'd like to leave us with on this occasion, and then perhaps we'll revisit this again in the future?
Well, there is another side to this which I haven't mentioned yet, and that's paying a living wage and equality and no exploitation. So these are all part of what it means to be sustainably run. There obviously are lots of businesses that we possibly don't know about, even in this country, that do exploit lesser fortunate people, shall we say. And it's very important. This is why having a certification is so important, because these things get checked. So when you've had your stamp of approval that you are running your business in a sustainable way, then you actually, with a certification logo, certified badge, it proves that you have. And you can be all your guests are absolutely 100% sure they're staying in a sustainably run hotel or event venue or hospitality, anything, restaurant, anything. But yes, living wage and equal hiring, things like that, are equally important. They're all equally important.
Sure. So I guess what we're saying is it's looking at every aspect of a business in order to really achieve certification. It's not just the obvious.
It's not. Yeah, sorry. It's not doing anything unusual. It's following government guidelines. It's not. You don't make up a living, and you know, a lot of people pay more than that to get good trained, well-trained staff.
Sure.
So
say if there's one lasting thought that you'd like to leave with people as to kind of why they should look at becoming sustainably certified, what would that be?
Well, I think I've more or less just mentioned it. There are a lot of multinational companies out there and small companies just the same who say they're doing a lot of things. They may even have it all over their website. But unless you can prove that you've done it and a certification that's been carried out by an independent third-party auditor, just like having your books audited by an accountant, they aren't attached to your business, so they're impartial. That is the best way to absolutely have an authentic certification that you've certified and everything that you're doing, you'll say you're doing. That's what
Well, Lucy, thank you.
Happy to help.
Thank you again. It's
very much.
a fascinating subject, and I'm sure as one we'll revisit again. Thanks.
So.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.